Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to the Westwood Select Board meeting. It is Monday, March 23rd at 5 p.m. This is an emergency meeting pursuant to the governor's executive order from March 10th that suspends certain provisions of open meeting laws, so it allows us to have this emergency meeting that as it relates to, excuse me, where is my microphone? As it relates to the COVID-19 virus, and that is the purpose of this meeting. As our meeting notice indicates, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting is being conducted via remote participation. We did think our third member, John Hickey, would be participating via phone. We have just learned that he will not be able to, but we do have present both Michael Walsh and myself to conduct this business. We are limiting the number of people who can be at this meeting, and we are keeping the appropriate distance from each other during the course of the meeting. So we are following the governor's guidelines and those from a national level. This meeting is being live streamed by Westwood Media Center at this time and being recorded, and I will grant Westwood Media Center permission to record the meeting. Before we go on, I want to take a moment to thank Connor Lynch, Melinda Garfield, and the team at Westwood Media Center for their diligence in facilitating these meetings being made available to the public and everything they're doing between meetings. They're doing a phenomenal job, and we are most appreciative of everything they're doing. I want to start by saying that earlier this afternoon at 4 p.m., the Westwood Board of Health conducted an emergency meeting as well. We are joined this afternoon by Jim O'Sullivan, Chair of the Board of Health, who is here with us. My understanding, Jim, is that the Board of Health approved a declaration of emergency in the town of Westwood.
We did unanimously.
Unanimously, and that is what Mr. Walsh and I will be taking up now is a discussion and declaration of the same emergency for the town of Westwood. As most people know, earlier today, Governor Baker issued an advisory to stay at home. We have been following with incremental measures, but also similarly will be adopting this declaration, which will contribute to hopefully added clarity as to the seriousness of this and how we are hoping to do our very best to protect the residents in Westwood. At this point, I guess I'll just ask our town administrator for a moment. Is it appropriate for me to just go into reading what the declaration is, or would you like us to have any other discussion beforehand?
Please go in to read it,
Okay.
and then afterwards, Madam Chair, I'm happy to share some information, what's going on in the room.
Okay, terrific. So the declaration of emergency that Mr. Walsh and I will take up through a motion and vote is as follows. Whereas the 2019 novel coronavirus, otherwise referred to as COVID-19, is a highly contagious and potentially fatal respiratory disease, the prevalence of which is increasing rapidly throughout the world, inclusive of the United States and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And whereas on March 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization designated COVID-19 outbreak a pandemic health emergency. And whereas on March 10th, 2020, the Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts issued a declaration of a state of emergency to respond to COVID-19. And whereas on March 13th, the President of the United States announced a national declaration of emergency. And whereas on March 15th, 2020, Governor Baker announced emergency actions to respond to the evolving COVID-19 public health emergency impacting the Commonwealth, prohibiting on-premise consumption of food or drink at bars and restaurants from March 17, 2020 until April 6, 2020, as well as suspension of elementary and secondary school educational operations
from March 17th, 2020 until April 6, 2020. Minimize all unnecessary activities outside of the home during the state of emergency, including all businesses and other organizations that do not provide COVID-19 essential services shall close their physical workplaces and facilities, bricks and mortar premises for the facilities, to workers, customers, and the public from 12 noon on March 24th, 2020 until 12 noon on April 7th, 2020, including prohibitions on public gatherings of 10 or more people. Whereas the Select Board and the Westwood Board of Health, in consultation with the State Department of Public Health, has determined that COVID-19 presents a major disaster which poses an immediate threat to public health, safety, and general welfare of people residing both within and outside of the town of Westwood. And whereas the Select Board and its Board of Health have determined that immediate public action is needed in order to prevent or minimize the spread of COVID-19 by and among the people of Westwood. And whereas it is critical to take additional steps to prepare for, respond to, and mitigate the spread of COVID-19 to protect the health and welfare of the people of Westwood. Whereas declaring a state of emergency will facilitate and expedite the use of resources to protect persons from the impacts of COVID-19, including but not limited to emergency expenditures pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 31, and limitations on operating hours and access to public buildings. And whereas the Select Board and the Board of Health recommend that a state of emergency be declared in the town of Westwood. Now therefore, we, the Select Board and the Board of Health of the town of Westwood, Massachusetts, hereby declare that as of today, March 23rd, 2020, a state of emergency exists in the town of Westwood. This declaration of emergency shall remain in effect until further notice is given, pursuant to our judgment that the conditions leading to this declaration no longer exist. I will take a motion to approve that declaration of emergency.
So moved.
And out of necessity, I will second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The declaration of emergency is in effect, effective immediately. And I'll make a couple comments, and I'd like you to, our town administrator, Mr. Coleman. I want to tell the public that please adhere to all advice about social distancing, limiting your activities, and respecting the health and well-being of all the residents of Westwood. You may be in good health, but you may be a carrier, and that in and of itself presents a situation that you should not expose other individuals to. We've had a lot of feedback that people do not appear to be adhering to these actions and limitations on people's activities, and we ask you, we implore you to follow them and be respectful of both your needs and that of the community. We would appreciate that. We do not have infinite public safety officials to go around and tell every individual in this town what to do. We ask you to do the right thing and protect everyone. I will turn it over to you, Mr. Coleman, if you have information you'd like to share with us about activities in town and what is being done.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. What you may see, I believe what you're seeing, the room is set up a little bit differently than it has been in the past for Select Board meetings. The room is now being converted into our Emergency Operations Center. This is out of precaution. We're trying to be proactive. The EOC is what we call it for short, is not going to open, but it's ready to open if we need to.
Okay.
And I just want to thank Chief Deckers, Chief Silva, and Brian Camp in our Communications Division for getting this set up so quickly.
This is what we do when we have blizzards or major, in anticipation of major events, and it's appropriate and great that, thank you, Chief Deckers and others who are helping us prepare for the potential use of this Emergency Operations Center. Can you, Chris, please also comment, and I know you're going to be sending out a robocall this evening
Yes.
shortly, but can you comment on where we are with town facilities and what people should expect now that we have the governor's order and our declaration of emergency?
Sure, thank you. So our town facilities will be closed. They'll continue to be closed to the public. We will be at a very limited staffing within the building. We're trying to adhere to what the governor's request is. We will continue to have our emergency personnel available. They will continue to provide the emergency services to the town. We will continue to have our public works department. They're actually being called out right now for snow removal. And they will be available as needed. A lot of our employees have already been set up and working remotely, working with our Board of Health and the direction of our Board of Health and the Massachusetts Department of Public Health and CDC, following their guidance as well. So we are still responding to our emails, we're still doing our work remotely, but we will have very few people in our town buildings to answer calls. There will be some staffing, so I just ask the residents to be patient if they do call. We will get back to you. It may not be as timely as it has been in the past, but we will return those calls. And we also have closed all of our fields, our playgrounds, and our playing field, and our basketball courts, tennis courts, and the tracks, both at the high school and at Deerfield. And we're trying to emphasize to the residents to limit the gatherings pursuant to the governor's order today of 10 or less.
10 or less,
but we
yes.
are also asking everyone to, again, those locations are closed. They will remain closed until further notice, and the police will be enforcing that pursuant to the governor's order.
Okay. And I want to comment briefly on the Finance Commission will be holding its meeting tonight, designed similar to this, only most of their participants will be participating remotely. Again, Westwood Media Center has done a great job, and they've set up a meeting format, and you can find out how to access that meeting by going online to the meeting notice for the Finance and Warrant Commission, and it will give you a click-through for Zoom. Or you can call in. Don't do both, because there's a time lag in when you hear things, so you can either do a remote meeting via Zoom, or you can call in as a member of the public. And we do not have an answer today. We have not had a discussion yet, but we will, as a board, be taking up what to do about the scheduled town election, which is presently scheduled for April 28th, and town meeting scheduled for May 4th. We are looking for what's coming out of the State House from the governor's order, from other legislation that's been initiated, not the governor's order, but there was a Senate bill that's at the governor's desk to be signed. There's other legislation. So we hope to become informed by what gets passed before we make a decision, but people should expect that we will be discussing it in the near term. Obviously, we have those dates that are not too far away, and we need to determine what to do about them. So that decision's not being made today. And there are tools available to us, and we're appreciative of the Finance and Warrant Commission holding their meeting tonight so they can complete their piece of the town meeting business and make their recommendations. That will be done, and then we'll still need to decide what to do about those other dates, as I mentioned.
And Madam Chair, if I may just add, we have other boards and committees that continue to meet pursuant to the governor's order and allowance of video or remote participation. So I just suggest to residents who are interested in following those meetings just to go to the town's website and go to whichever department, whichever board is going to be meeting to look at either the call-in number or the Zoom access information.
Right. And things may be updated in short time. At least we may have meetings in short time because we can hold emergency meetings, as can the Board of Health if necessary. Other meetings tend to be scheduled, but they will have information on how to participate as a member of the public. And we hold the values of public participation very high, but in these times we do need to utilize provisions that have been given to us by the state so that we can do our best to protect everybody. Mr. Walsh, anything you would like to add this evening?
Well, I just want to let them know that although the Council on Aging is closed, Lena is considered an essential employee, and so is some of the others, reaching out to the elderly across town at this point in time. And also remind people, if you're feeling helpless, you can contribute to the food pantry.
Yes.
You can still do that online and help out at town, because I think at this point in time there are those who have unable to get secure employment, who are going to need the food pantry, especially until we get back to some type of normal life.
And the
So,
food pantry is helping not only the people, families, but also students on the subsidized meal program
right.
with gift cards to grocery stores. I'll add to that, the Westwood Community Chest is also an organization. You can go online and check them out. They do a lot to help people bridge difficult times when they're unable to pay bills. And they go through a review process, but they will pay bills for people if people who apply are qualified. And to the extent that people are looking to help their neighbors, that's another opportunity. And I know I saw it on Facebook. So the Westwood Community Chest, an established organization, a 501c3 organization, is accepting donations, and this of any time. Between the food pantry and that organization, if you want to really have a positive impact on people who are going to struggle through this financially, that's the way to do it.
Especially for those that can. If you can't, we
Especially-
understand, but for those that can,
Yeah, for people
they
who
can all
can
use your
help.
help.
Yes. Madam Chair,
Yeah.
this will be in the Code Red call, but just to inform residents that the library will be closed and the staff will be working remotely during this closure. And we will notify the public when the staff will be available within the building. But the building will continue to be closed. And as far as the Council on Aging, Lena and her team are doing a great job, and Meals on Wheels will continue during the closure.
Also very important. Mr.
The only thing
Board of Health Chair, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just one
I
thing.
know you're not on microphone.
I do have the lapel
Oh,
pin.
you do? I didn't see that. Great.
All I would say is, it's not a violation of the declaration of the order to pick up the telephone. If you have neighbors who are elderly and alone, check in on them, see how they're doing. If
Yes.
they need help, you can help.
Honestly, we've now have my mother-in-law using, FaceTime so that they don't feel isolated and they can still have a conversation with the family. So anything that you can do, especially for your loved ones, especially important right now.
And I would add that I know I speak for my colleagues on the select board, and we really come together at a time like this, that we are all here to help. If you can't reach town hall, you need to reach us. We want more than anything to address the needs of this community. And the people that work for this town are phenomenal, and you really find the strength of people and their creativity to solve problems at a time like this, and we should all be very proud and thankful. We have Chief Deckers here. I know your staff, the police department, the DPW are out there working through all this. Thank you to everybody. It is very impressive, the strength and the might we have of the people who work for this town. And we're all proud of all of you.
Our pleasure to serve.
Thank you. Is there any other business we should discuss at this time? We are I'll be attending the limited population who will be at the Finance and Warrant Commission. Should we adjourn this meeting to the Finance Commission meeting?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Will you do so?
Yes, I move that we adjourn this meeting to the Finance and Warrant Commission public meeting this evening and to subside at the end of that meeting.
To subside. End?
End at that time.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. There will be a Code Red call going out. We will continue to do those calls as is appropriate, and we hope that everybody stays safe. Thank you.
Thank you.